Welcome, everybody. This is Sue Maya and another episode of Quantum Theology Radio. Today we're going to talk about how to get through difficult times, difficult emotions, difficult circumstances, sometimes expected and sometimes unexpected. I want to share with you the process that you need to create a miracle in your life. But first we have to deal with the hardship, the confusion, the frustration, the angers, the pains, the depression, the anxiety, and everything else that gets in the way of having a miracle form in your life. First, faith. And here's a passage out of Streams in the Desert by Mrs. Charles Coleman. This is written very many years ago, in the early part of the last century. And during that time, there were many hardships. We know about the Dust Bowl. We know about the Great Depression. We know about wars and rumors of wars, World War I, World War II, and all the sacrifices that people made. They didn't have as many luxuries as we have now. Some places did, but this woman spoke to the farmers, to the people living with drought, with famine, and hardships. So let me share with you some of her words about how to get through these times. First quoting from Psalm 78, line 72. He guided them by the skillfulness of his hands. When you are doubtful as to your course, submit your judgment absolutely to the Spirit of God and ask him to shut against you every door but the right one. Meanwhile, keep on as you are and consider the absence of indication to be the indication of God's will, that you are on his track. As you go down the long corridor, you will find that he has preceded you and locked many doors which you would have fain entered. But be sure that beyond these there is one he has left unlocked. Open it and enter, and you will find face to face that you are at a bend of the river of opportunity, broader and deeper than anything you had dared to imagine in your sunniest dreams. Launch forth upon it. It conducts to the open sea. God guides us, often by circumstances. At one moment, the way may seem utterly blocked, and then shortly afterwards, some trivial incident occurs, which might not seem much to others, but which are, to the keen eye of faith, speaking volumes. Sometimes these things are repeated in various ways in answer to prayer. They are not haphazard results of chance, but the opening up of circumstances in the direction in which we should walk. And they begin to multiply as we advance forward to our goal, just as the lights do as we near a populous town, when darting through the land by night express. That was a quote by F.B. Mayer. If you go to him to be guided, he will guide you, but he will not comfort your distress or half-trust of him by showing you that the chart of all his purposes concerning you. He will show you only into a way where if you go cheerfully and trustfully forward, he will show you on still further, by Horace Bushnell. Now, the language is a little bit archaic, and I had to slip in a few words myself to make it a little bit more understandable. I mean, you can tell by the last sentence of Mayer's passage. He says, when darting through the land by night express. Do you know what night express is? That was stagecoach. So we're a little bit further along in technology than Stagecoach, but the principles remain the same. The principles always remain the same throughout the centuries, throughout history, throughout politics, throughout the rise and fall of empires. The principles are the same. So if you're in a difficult time this week, and I hear people's voices on the calls, I hear them discussing, I listen to the news a little, I watch as people run around scared and making threats in the rhetoric of war and the propaganda of fear. And your personal circumstances may change overnight. And I experienced that too. And I have to work really hard to rise above the waves so that I can be here to speak to you about it. Then when you do surpass the ups and downs and trust completely in Him despite all the polarities, the tensions, the raised voices, the arguments, to come to a place of peace where you know you are one with God and you always were. You always were. You are made of the substance of God. You were in the beginning. You still are. His plan is so much bigger than everybody else's that we just have to trust that circumstances may change your life and appearances, but the direction is His will. It is His will. It always was. And what do you do next? Well, here's something out of the Unity Church Daily Word magazine about releasing. In the past, I may have received messages that I was weak, powerless, unlovable, or not good enough. I may have carried those beliefs like a heavy backpack. My shoulders drooped and my head hung low. The people who sent those messages must have been unaware of God's boundless grace. I enfold them in love now and rejoice in the gifts of God's kingdom, always available to us. I'm God's perfect expression. I no longer carry beliefs or burdens that do not serve me. As I release these burdens, I feel their weight slip off my back. My whole being sighs with relief as I straighten my back and stand tall. I declare I am strong enough. I am powerful enough. I am loved enough. And out of Genesis 1, line 3 to 4, then God said, let there be light. And there was light. And God saw that the light was good. And God separated the light from the darkness. Now, light can be interpreted in so many ways, and so can darkness. As you lift your burdens, you become lighter. By giving away and selling your things, you become lighter. That's what I'm preparing to do right now, this week. But you also make room for the other kind of light, spiritual light, the light of Christ, the light of faith, the light which is your home becomes more present around you. There's more room for it then. So light in the physical, light in the spiritual, light in your mind, light in your heart, all kinds of light. Let there be light. Let it be lighter in your life. And darkness can be taken different ways as well. Darkness can be seen as heavy, sick, gross, smelly. It can be so physical. And it can be such a low vibration. And it can pull you down when you want to rise up. And it can try to push you this way and that way. And it can try to be manipulative. Darkness of energies, darkness of physicalities, darkness of governments or industries, of greed. All of those things can be lifted as you release them. You won't be perfect the first time. I am not. I'm not perfect every time. But I strive to peel away contracts that no longer belong to me, agreements that no longer serve the purpose God has for me, that don't fit with the picture, the vision of your perfect self as you were created by Him. If you don't fit that perfect vision that He has for you, that God has for you, then those things must be released, or else you cannot become what He expects. And what He expects is simply that which He knows is for your good. And like we discussed last week, all things work together for good for those who love God and are called according to His purpose, Romans 8:28. So if you're in a time of fear and transition, move through the feelings and back to your faith again and again and again, even if it's every hour or at night when you're alone, or the first thing in the morning when you open your eyes and you say, I'm going to stand up with faith today because I have a purpose to fulfill regardless of circumstances, regardless of the expectations or the pressures that I feel coming in from around me, or the burden of responsibilities. Stand up in faith and move towards the light again and again and again, no matter how many times it takes. You've got eternity to work on it. And it will only increase your relationship with the true one Creator. Become lighter. It is your destiny. Thank you for listening. And we'll open up for the discussion now. I want to let you know that I started a quantum theology radio series on YouTube. So those are the search words. I only have 3 things posted right now because I have to edit out some of the copyrighted music that I had used in the past. So it might take a while. It may not be, hundreds of videos or anything. But still, if you need to listen to some of these past shows, they will be there little by little, just enough to keep you going in between. Okay? So Quantum Theology Radio on YouTube. Thank you so much for being here, and we'll open up the talk now.